I think we're in a market where you're going to see 10, 20, and 30 baggers. And there are certain characteristics to look for. But on the flip side of that, how do you avoid being the bag holder and the buyer when it's at the 10, 20, or 30 bagger valuation?
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And as we round out another week in the silver market, I am excited to have my good friend Shawn Khunkhun of Dolly, Varden Silver joining me to talk some silver stocks. And Shawn, in particular, some of the mistakes people might want to avoid during the silver rally. It's interesting, an industry with so much history and all these different situations, and there's so many vast areas where that study nerd part of me always thinks, gee, well, if I spend another 10,000 hours studying this, or I could just be friends with Shawn, who has quite a bit of experience in the junior mining sector. We can also dig into, you'd be a great person to ask the question. We hear about 10 baggers, 50 baggers during some of these rallies, and you're the man who knows how all of that goes. So Shawn, welcome on into the Silver Cave. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing really well, Chris. I've got to first make a comment about our clothing decisions today. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what's going on in our minds here. We both have we like silver, and we've got these blue shirts on here. So I just had to make a comment that good fashion choice today this morning.
Yeah, well, I'd love to take a explanation at the subliminals and subconscious of that, because I remember in a meditation I have, the guy tells you, he's like, visualize blue. Blue is a confident color, and as you can see in my downstairs in the basement today, so perhaps it means I'm confident in silver. And I don't know, I do talk about, have the show, but maybe I have a conflicted interest. But something everybody can agree on is that I'm not confident in American politics. I'm not confident in central banks. And Shawn, I'm going to make a note to get our bumper stickers. If you don't like to short government, buy silver, or something like that. If you don't like, because it really, I mean, there's a lot of fundamental reasons to like silver, but would you say that really at the heart of it, and the reason people talk about sound money or get into silver or any of these things, is at the end we see what government's doing, and I don't know anyone who would ever invest in a company that is run that way. Do you?
Absolutely not. But I'm stuck on the term 10 bagger.
Yeah.
Because you know what, I gotta be honest with you. So this year was something really special where I actually was involved in two 10 bagger scenarios with two companies that I bought some passive investments in. I actually had two 10 baggers this year, and that's something that hasn't happened for a long time. And to have two inside of 1 year. So no, you know what, I think we're in a market where you're going to see 10, 20, and 30 baggers. And there are certain characteristics to look for. But on the flip side of that, how do you avoid being the bag holder and the buyer when it's at the 10, 20, or 30 bagger valuation? Right. And I think that's as important as trying to identify how to buy a 10 bagger. How do you avoid buying something that's gone up, 30 times and maybe at the risk of owning it at its peak valuation? So I think that's as important to discuss.
Well, then how fortunate that you're here today, because we want to cover the pitfalls, the things to watch out for, because yes, it sounds great to get those large returns, but as is often the case, a little bit easier said than done. So where to start there, what to look for and what to watch out for, anything you can share and guide folks through that?
I think that, one thing that I'm sensitive to as a silver investor is when a company reports a silver equivalent, right? Like, I am here because I want silver. And a lot of companies, they look at their total metal content and they throw in things like zinc or lead that may not be on the same price trajectory as silver. And so, you want to be, if you look for companies that report in that silver equivalent, how much of their deposit is actually silver. So one way to make sure that you're in a pure silver play is focusing on pure silver deposits or companies that separate, so you know how much silver you're actually getting. So that's one great way, because you don't want to be in a situation where you get into something that's very zinc or lead heavy and the price of zinc or lead isn't moving in the same direction that silver is, and you really own a zinc company. Because a lot of companies try to dress up their assets, especially these polymetallic or multi-mineral projects. So really trying to find the pure silver mines.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And actually, Shawn, I had an email from you guys. You actually had some recent drill results. And along those lines, it's not the easiest thing for someone to interpret. Maybe you could just show that, demonstrate that point you were just making. Here is your recent silver results, and perhaps you could go through that. And when someone's looking at one of these results, especially if they're new, I mean, all right, 351 grams for silver over 12 meters, over 2 meters. Can you explain for folks what that means and kind of how
Sure.
they can put that in context? Is it a lot? Is it a little? How
Yeah.
do they
So
do that?
the first thing I gotta say is, like, it's very complicated because you could, yeah, a company like this one here, like my company, they can put out some very high grades, but not all ounces are created equal. And so, where is the mine? Is the discovery, is it close to surface? Is it really deep? What are some of the other challenges from a social standpoint? So, but if we're just looking at numbers, I think the key to take away here is, the two numbers you're looking at here. So you're looking at the grade of the silver, and you're looking at over what width that interval is, right? So in this case, you've got 350 grams of silver over 12 meters. But now, Chris, what's the significance of it, right? Like, is this, in this case, we've got a company that's got a deposit, and we stepped out away from that deposit and we found more. So we've extended
Okay.
the known deposit with some exceptionally high grades. Um, Maybe on a future episode we can talk about industry averages. So what the average production grades are for a near surface mine, an underground mine. But in this case, like, these are some exceptional. Anytime you get 1,000 grams per ton silver, you're in a good mining scenario here. And so the significance for us is we stepped out and we were adding to our existing deposit.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Anything else that in a press release like this that are signs people would want to look for, or red flags to watch out for? But obviously you've written your own, you've seen in your success in finding other 10 baggers, you know how to filter through what else is out there.
I think one of the things to look at is, like, we see a lot of projects get recycled. So the price of silver's moving up, or the price of gold's moving up, and some old small mine gets brought out by a company, and they sort of drill right down the guts of the known deposit, and they put out a result. And so I guess the big question is it something new? And are they materially adding to the project? So are they advancing the project? One thing to look for is if you get a company that's drilling, uh, you know, 20 holes that are really shallow all in one area, and putting out, oh, look, so it's in the context, are they meaningful step outs? Like, are they 25-meter step outs? Are they 50-meter step outs? I think that's important to watch for. so that it's not just an overly promotional drill result that's trying to really shed light on something that's not necessarily new.
Yeah, and Shawn, if I may touch on that for a moment, I would say I have. It's interesting. Again, I studied the silver for a while now, learning all the more about the mining stocks. And I have heard of a company where essentially I heard someone from another company basically assert that that's what they did, showing that there are ways that an outsider would not know, but that a company would present something where it's like, you're showing this section, which will create one impression that is not really reflective of what you would explain to someone you really want in their best interest.
And that's where I think, the other thing is some companies, they get the orientation of a deposit, how it's sort of endowed, and then some companies perhaps sort of drill into the center of that. So even the way something is drilled can tell investors. But these are all things that the more materials, the more maps and sections that are available, the more information a company puts out showing the audience where this is, where it is in relation to what was already identified. Is it really a brand new discovery? So these are all really important things. And then over time, the project gets further and more validated, and you get some reports like a 43-101, where you get an independent to come in based on drilling that's occurred on the property to come up with an estimate of what you really have in the ground. So there are, for investors who are looking for less risky opportunities, they can wait for companies who have one of these resource estimates before they invest, because now they know that third parties come in and they've validated what's in the ground, and these are often quite conservative reports. So that's one way for investors to protect themselves.
That makes a lot of sense. And Shawn, how does somebody value a company where we don't know if they've found anything yet? All right, you have the management team, but okay, at 40 cents, is that rich? At 60 cents?
So
what?
what I like to do, Chris, is I like to find out, and this is usually available on the company's website, how many shares are issued and outstanding in the company, number one. Okay, so how many shares, and then you multiply that by their share price, and that number that you get is what's referred to as market capitalization. And then you can get, okay, well, this is what the company's worth. They've got 100 million shares out. They're trading at $1. It's a $100 million company. And then you can work it backwards and go, okay, well, they have 50 million ounces of silver. And so they've got a value of $2 for every ounce that they have in the ground. So these are some ways that you can mathematically work out, versus a company that, maybe it just has a very strong management team. Maybe it's got a team that, has been serial success cases where, even if it's a company, a project they're working on isn't successful, they go out and they acquire something else, and they're relentless and they're tireless, and they just find a way to be successful. And so, that management team may get a higher valuation by the market than a management team that hasn't had that type of success, or doesn't have the, because what'll happen is if you have success, the investment banking community and the financing community will follow you and continue to back you, right? So, and you need capital to develop these companies, so that's a big part of this as well.
Yeah, and Shawn, I guess one thing I'm curious, any thoughts on it? It's amazing that even with silver rallying, I don't know, it was $18 a couple months ago, now in the mid 20s, as high as 29, yet some of the silver stocks, even down on the year, I remember at one point, Silvercrest, First Majestic were both, lower at $27 silver than at 18. What do you think's going on there, and how does that play out?
Well, see, I don't always believe that fundamentals drive price. I think what drives price is money flows.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about a lack of investor and flow of funds into these companies. And so that's where the opportunity that is though. So Chris, I got really excited last year because I saw the price of gold moving up. So I saw gold, gold was stuck for years and years and years in a trading range between, call it 1100 and 1300. And then all of a sudden last summer, for the first time in 6 or 7 years, gold broke above that trading range. And I knew, because of studying previous markets, gold was going to go up significantly. And it went up from 1300 and it went all the way to 2000. Now, also from studying history in other markets, I know that silver now is also gonna follow and actually outperform gold. And when I got really excited was silver was stuck in a trading range, but we've seen it break above that range. Let's call the ceiling on silver was, let's just say $20 for a round number. For a number of years there, it was stuck in a range. It broke above 20, and what did it do? It went up 50% in what? Not years, not months, but weeks.
Yeah.
And so now we've consolidated, but we're in the upper end of that trading range, and now we're going to go. And I'm pretty confident that I'm not usually aggressive. I'm usually quite conservative, but I've got what some would view as a pretty aggressive call for silver next year, where I see a 4 on silver. I see a $40 silver price, and I see it coming in the first quarter.
Yeah.
That's what I think, right? And ultimately, it's a question like,
does that mean you watched the debate last week and it's like, Jesus, gonna whichever one of these guys wins, it's gonna go higher?
well, you know what? I'm a believer that, like, under Obama, you had, a stock market that was soaring higher. You had a stock market that was soaring higher. Under Bush, you had debt that was soaring higher. Under
Yeah.
Bush, you had debt that was soaring higher. Under Obama. And there are two different philosophies and political sides of the spectrum. So, I think the challenges that we face are bigger than the parties. And yeah, I think the pie's in the oven, Chris. The ingredients were put in a long time ago. And I saw a number last week where if you take US debt, you take corporate debt, you take household debt, we're 1,000% to GDP. Like, we're past the point. Like, so
Why would that matter?
yeah. So for me, I just think, so now what do you do then? What do you do, right? What do you do when you've got all this debt and and you got all this money sloshing around? I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but when I think of common sense, I go, well, Shawn, you should probably be in some things that you can't just print away.
Yeah, maybe a fun game we could play, because Shawn is going to be a regular guest on the show, which I am quite excited about. We're at 27 trillion on the national debt today. I like looking over, if you can see my mouse as I hover over to the dollar to silver ratio. Now, if you look at the top of the screen, it defines that year-over-year increase in M2 money supply divided by the production of silver. I might add, when I started looking at that field a couple months ago, is around 2105. Somebody is watching all these videos remembers when that was. So yeah, I will guarantee on record, I'm going to predict the winner of the election before it happens will be Ben Bernanke's printing press, even if Jerome Powell is working it right now. Although, Shawn, I know you have a call coming up. Perhaps before we wrap up, you could just tell that story you mentioned before we started recording about how you've responded to this, why you're running Dolly Varden, and basically how you responded in a great fashion, in my own opinion.
Well, I think what you're referring to is, I just said to you, look, if you're a mining company executive, every day you come to work and you're depleting inventory. And because prices were down for so many years, there wasn't an incentive to explore, to develop, to replace your inventory. And so my thinking was, what if I tried to secure inventory? One day a company will come along and they'll want our inventory. It's really that simple. Like, if you're a mining company, you're depleting inventory every day. And you talked about those drill results we put out. Well, we've got some inventory. We stepped out and we found more. And it's really, we try to complicate these things, right? But at the end of the day, it's really that simple. Like that, I just saw a void or a vacuum where there wasn't an emphasis put on replenishing inventory. And that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to replenish inventory because I think our inventory it's not just valuable because we can grow it, but with the price of silver when we started, it was sub 20, now we're into the 20s. I feel confident as we continue to do these videos, we'll be talking 30, 40, 50 and higher. And so that inventory is going to be worth a lot more. And so it's really, really, really that simple. And then one other factor is my inventory's in Canada, which, if you had silver, do you want it in Switzerland, or do you want it in a vault, or do you want it in a country that's going through a bunch of political unrest? So I think, the fact that our deposit is in Canada, it's a safe, stable country. I can drive to our site. I can oversee things. Gives me the confidence that we can get it out of the ground. And the other thing is, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Like, this is not an area that's new to mining. Like, our project used to be in production, and there's a lot of production in the neighborhood. And so it's really that simple. Like, we've got a pure silver play in a safe country, and we're finding more.
Yeah, and you can find out more about that at dollyvardensilver.com. Although I don't want to stress out anyone's fingers. Just click the link right there in the description field below. And Shawn, it makes sense to me because, again, maybe you know what? I'm going to change the channel. I'm going to stop talking about silver and I'll just put Jerome Powell. I mean, I don't think the guy's bluffing about running his printing press. I mean, I don't know. If somebody wants to hold dollars in the long term, I mean, I guess go do that. But I think Jerome is not going to stop. I don't think they can stop. And that's why, like you pointed out, we saw silver move quickly before. Will be fun to see how these next couple months develop. And Shawn, appreciate you as always coming on.
Just a final thought, right? I think the key to life is balance, right? Like, with whatever we do, right? Like, I just think it's balance, 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 balance. And listen, you don't need to go out and sell everything you own and go all into silver. You don't have to do that, right? But I think the responsible thing to do is you have a little bit, right? You have a little bit. And the thing is about silver versus a lot of other things that are out there that are like depreciating, there's always a value there. So Chris, my hard stop is I've got to jump here, but listen, I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to doing it again.
Well, I'll be looking forward to that. Thank you, Shawn Khunkhun of Dolly Varden Silver, our junior mining silver stock expert. We'll look forward to checking in with you again soon.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.